Hello, everyone. Let's begin today with a word from God found in Malachi chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. Quote, "For the lips of a priest or pastor ought to preserve knowledge, and from his mouth men should seek instruction, because he is the messenger of the Lord Almighty. But you have turned from the way, and by your teaching have caused many to stumble." End quote. Today, I want to speak to priests, pastors, and even church and seminary leaders, elders and deacons, as well as congregational members who support them. The words of Malachi are not directed at every teacher or leader or pastor. Many are true servants and messengers of the Lord. Sadly, though, many others have walked away from the truth of the Bible and are actually wolves in sheep's clothing, preaching, teaching, and leading. Let's talk today first about the church. The church began in the book of Acts under the watchful eyes of the disciples. The church was basically a commune. Acts chapter 2, verse 44 says, quote, "All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as he had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. And the Lord added to their numbers daily those who were being saved." End quote. That sounds so wonderful. Clearly, God was pleased with these believers. But following the stoning of Stephen, the believers were scattered. Some went as far north as Antioch, Greece, where they were first called Christians at Antioch, and the church was called Catholicus. Soon the word would be taken around the Mediterranean Sea, so living in communes wasn't possible. In Rome, the Catholic Church began. Catholics claim even today that they were founded by Jesus himself, which is ludicrous. There was no church when Jesus was on earth. Everyone was a Jew. They also believe their bishops are successors of the disciples, and the Pope is the successor to St. Peter. No wonder the church has so much power. None of that is true. Somebody started the church in Rome. And contrary to what has been taught in the Catholic Church, the words of Jesus, quote, "On this rock I will build my church," end quote, had nothing to do with Peter, even though Jesus spoke those words to Peter. Jesus uses the words "I" here and continues to say, quote, "I will build my church," end quote. And the Bible calls God and Jesus a rock. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 2 says, quote, "There is no rock like our God," end quote. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 4, in regards to God says, quote, "He is the rock," end quote. 2 Samuel 22, verse 32 says, quote, "And who is the rock except our God?" End quote. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 tells us, quote, "They drank from the spiritual rock, and that rock was Christ," end quote. The belief that Peter is the rock whom Jesus assigned to build the Catholic Church is a major flaw in that church's leadership and doctrine. On July 16th, 1054, the Catholic Church split, and the Eastern Orthodox Church began. Then, in the 1500s, along came Martin Luther, who correctly fought the sale of indulgences for sin forgiveness, and the Lutheran Church began, followed by churches formed by John Calvin, John Knox, and others. These churches began not biblically, but because of the beliefs of men. And to this day, the beliefs of men run nearly all churches because most have never read the entire Bible and therefore develop doctrine based on parts of the Bible mixed with their individual beliefs. In 2010, I did research on the seminaries of all denominational churches. None of them, not one, required pastoral candidates to read the entire Bible before graduation, and most still have not done so. I have personal knowledge of Lutheran seminaries because I attended a Lutheran university for 2 years and knew many seminarian students, even dating one, while 3 of my roommates dated and married others. None of those guys knew the Bible. None of them. Later, I interviewed a Lutheran seminarian who said candidates read only a few books of the Bible. 60% of their studies is from books written by professors. 60%. That is shameful. Absolutely shameful. In 2011, I was on the radio discussing my book all across the United States. Program hosts admitted they never read the Bible, even though they attended Christian schools. I never read the Bible at my Christian university, and my Catholic cousin, who attended Catholic school all his life and even studied for the priesthood, also never read the Bible. So, if we attend denominational churches, we are, for the most part, being taught by pastors and priests who have never read the whole Bible. How easy it has been then for Satan to capture the Christian churches and turn them his way. Homosexuality has, for instance, split churches. Had the leaders of those churches read the entire Bible, they would know beyond a shadow of a doubt that homosexuals will not enter the kingdom of heaven. However, homosexuals and their lifestyle have now been welcomed and supported in many denominational churches. God said he will return when our earth is, quote, as in the days of Noah, end quote. Folks, we are on our way. I will tell you, this would not be happening in our churches if our pastors, priests, and church leaders were required to read the entire Bible. Let's then be reminded again of the words of Malachi chapter 2, verses 7 and 8, quote, "For the lips of a priest or pastor ought to preserve knowledge, and from his mouth men should seek instruction, because he's the messenger of the Lord Almighty. But you have turned from the way, and by your teaching have caused many to stumble," end quote. That stumbling is happening everywhere in America. Pastors and priests who don't read the whole Bible have sympathy for sin rather than preaching the truth as a biblical messenger of God. God would never encourage homosexuality because he said in Leviticus, Corinthians, and Romans that homosexuals will not enter the kingdom of God. No wonder Jesus said this about heaven, quote, few will find it, end quote, because only a few will. What will you do about this failure of denominational churches to teach the entire Bible in seminary? You are hearing less than the knowledge every Sunday of the true messenger of God. Here's what I do. I write a letter to the pastor when I hear him preach unbiblical information. Does that make me popular? Of course not. But it's the right thing to do. And by the way, kudos to non-denominational Bible colleges who do teach the entire Bible. Let's not hold pastors in high esteem until we know that they know and have read in its entirety the only book that will ever matter. Will you be a person who makes a difference, or will you be more interested in being liked? Remember, we will all be judged on our actions. How will you explain to God, I just wanted to be liked? You can't. Thanks for listening. See you Thursday. That might be the toughest one I've ever done.